Hello, and welcome to Essential Alchemy. Alchemy is defined as the power or process that changes or transforms something in a mysterious or impressive way. My hope is that the information in this podcast can help you transform your mood, your energy, physical health, or even connect some dots to help you shift your mental or emotional state. I'm your host, Jodi Cohen, a best-selling author, award-winning journalist, functional practitioner, lifelong learner, and founder of Vibrant Blue Oils, a company that sells proprietary blends of high-quality organic or wildcrafted essential oil remedies designed to help you return to your ideal mental, physical, and emotional state. You can find out more about me and my company at vibrantblueoils.com. And with that, let's get started with today's episode. Hi, I'm Jodi Cohn, your host, and I'm so excited to be joined by my dear friend Jana Danielson, where we're going to talk about all things like mobility, pain, and her fabulous Cooch Ball product. Jana is an award-winning wellness entrepreneur who, through her own experience with physical pain, turned her mess into her message, which has now become her mission. She is an Amazon International best-selling author, founder of Lead Pilates and Lead Integrated Health Therapies, and the Cooch Ball, the world's first pelvic floor fitness tool for women that you can use for 3 minutes a day and have amazing results. So welcome, Jana.
Jodi, thanks so much for having me here. I'm excited for this conversation.
I am too, and I want the listeners to know, talk to me about how you came up with this.
I mean, as you alluded to in my bio, I think that those of us that are in the world of healing now had some sort of experience with pain, or something was gifted to us in a former life and that brought us to where we are today. That's exactly what happened with me. I was in my early 20s. I had a lot of undiagnosed digestive pain. I spent about 2 years going from doctors to specialists with no diagnosis and just the next prescription, the next piece of paper to go to the pharmacy to fill. And so I found myself at 21 years old on 11 different medications every single day, just to be told by my doctors one day that they believed the pain was in my head and I was seeking attention. I felt like the rug was being pulled out from under me. I thought that my whole life, like I was newly engaged to my high school sweetheart, and I was questioning, why would I go through with the wedding? Because why would a partner that can't even get up in the morning, I wanted to be a mom. How would that even possibly happen? And so through this series of events, I actually found Pilates. And I love that you mentioned the word mobility, because what actually happened for me 6 months after being told that the pain was in my head, I went to my first Pilates class, and 16 weeks after that date, I was off all my medication. I had no idea what had just happened. How did movement heal me? How? And that's exactly what happened. I thought I was fit. I used to teach aerobics in university to pay for my tuition. But what I didn't realize was the importance of breathing with my diaphragm, moving my spine in beautiful ways, what that does for all the organs and how we optimize their functionality, our mindset, how critical it is when you can be like, I always say in Winnie the Pooh, there's, Eeyore, the little donkey, right? And I really was living like an Eeyore. I was feeling sorry for myself. I thought that others should feel sorry for me. And it wasn't until I kind of turned things around and became more of like that Tigger for myself, a cheerleader for myself, believing that I deserved to have a healthy life. That's when things turned around for me. And so anyone that's been in pain knows that if you've been in pain long enough, it's not just the pain where it started. Your whole body succumbs to the pain. And in my early 20s, I found myself having a lot of pelvic floor pain, hadn't had a baby, was not in menopause. And I was wondering why, what is happening here? And so I shifted my world from climbing the corporate ladder to wellness entrepreneurship. And I got certified in Pilates, opened my own studio, expanded 5 years later to include an integrated health therapies clinic. And the one thing I found that was so interesting was, as I would teach Pilates to women and would talk about pelvic floor, through the breath work, they would stop making eye contact with me. They wouldn't be asking questions. And I was like, okay, what's happening here? Like, they trust me. We have a relationship, and yet we can't talk about this part of our body. And I figured I was onto something. And I did some work with a urogynecologist out of the US that had just released some new research in the mid 20, like around 2014. And his research said that in a woman's body, 90% of pelvic floor dysfunction is actually rooted in lack of mobility, poor posture, and fascial restriction. And I was like, wait a minute, if that's really true, I can help 9 out of 10 women as a Pilates instructor. And that's literally how the Cooch Ball was born. I was a mom by then. I went downstairs to my boys' toy box. I sat on their mini basketballs, their floor hockey balls, their just to see what would this feel like if I brought blood flow to the area. Yeah, and that's the story.
Well, there's also trauma down there, like the women that have been raped, that's really involved in it. I love what you said, though. A couple things. The victim mentality. I always talk about Eeyore too. My goal is to be Pooh because I am a little bit too bouncy flouncy Tigger. If I can just be chill, that would be great. But mobility really helps. I also love what you said about moving the spine to open the organs. Can you
Mhm.
talk about that a little bit more and how breathing? Because I think everyone they hear breathing and it's almost like, oh, that's too hard. Or they hear pelvis and they're like, oh, don't want to go there. Like we have all of these. It's like me with like pigeon pose, like the things that we avoid that we probably need. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So Joseph Pilates, who is the gentleman that invented the whole system of movement around Pilates, said that the health of our spine dictated the health of our body. And so there's 5 ways. It's kind of like a recipe. There are 5 ways every day to simply move our spine so that if you think of the spine like if it's like a Christmas tree and all the lights are plugged in, right? If there's
Mhm.
that one bulb that's not working, sometimes a whole section of lights doesn't work. It's the
Yeah.
same, right? When our spine doesn't move, think of what happens in our body. When we have small little bones, like in our hands, in our feet, in our spine, those bones are meant to move. When we have long bones, like the bones in our arms and our legs, those bones are meant to hold us for stability. And yet, because we sit so much during the day, those little bones in our spine start to take on the personality of being a solid bone. And so the 5 spinal movements are simply spinal flexion. And you know what? I'm going to just shift my camera because I want to just show really quickly. So,
Oh, I
spinal
love this. Thank you.
a little movement here. Okay. So spinal flexion simply means if someone was going to poke you in your belly button, you
Mhm.
would kind of create a little tuck.
Oh, okay.
So it's not this. So too
Right.
many of us are like this already at our desk,
Yeah.
right? So the spinal flexion or the rounding of the spine actually comes from the lumbar or the lower back. It's a little tiny tuck. Okay.
Okay.
And you're sitting at your desk. If you do a little tiny tuck, you almost feel like if you were wearing a belt, that belt
Yeah.
just cinched up one notch tighter. We start to actually massage our organs. It's an internal massage. And so for those of you that are bloated or constipated, that also is a pelvic floor issue. It's rooted in pelvic floor, the pelvic floor being dysfunctional, either too tight or lacking tone. Okay. So that's spinal movement number one. The opposite of flexion is extension. So it's kind of just sticking the booty back, creating a
Yeah.
little more of an arch in your back. So we have flexion and extension. So sometimes when I'm sitting at my desk on a Zoom call, without people even knowing, like I'm doing this little tailbone tuck, and then I'm sticking my booty back. And if you do it with good posture, like, do you even see how my blinds have those lines? You can't really even tell that I'm doing these little tucks, right? And that is what opening up or massaging those organs. The next 2 spinal movements are simply like bending to the side, lateral flexion. You want to make sure those bony bones in your butt stay grounded, Kayla. I don't want you to like lean all the way over,
So
but think,
kind of like in yoga when you,
yes. But
okay.
here's the one watch for.
Okay.
You want to make sure that your pelvis, okay, like those bony bones in your butt,
Right.
they're like roots of a tree. So if you're
Okay.
in your chair doing a side bend, you want to make sure that as you're bending to the side, you don't let go with that butt. You keep the butt nicely grounded, right? Because you want
Okay.
your spine to be moving.
Okay. Nice.
Okay. Spinal rotation, right? You do a shoulder check, or even, someone calls your name, you turn. So rotation is also very important. And it's when we twist our spine, the organs get to, again, massage on one another. So there's this yummy just interaction between the tissues, and they actually start talking to each other. Like, hey, how are you? Well, I'm kind of tight today. Well, look, and so there's this beautiful kind of communication system. And then the fifth spinal movement, you would have to lay on the floor. But if you laid on your back with your knees bent, and if you lifted your butt off the floor into a little bit of a bridge, we call that an inversion. So your tailbone is a little bit higher than your heart. Spinal fluid gets to work against gravity in a different way. And that really was Joe Pilates' recipe for a healthy body, was moving your spine that way. And it literally takes minutes a day. So that's the correlation between spinal movement and the health of our organs.
I see yoga in all of those. That's amazing. And I love Pilates also.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
talk to me now about the cooch ball and
Yeah.
how to bring the ball into the practice.
Okay. So let's quickly I'm just going to grab an apple.
Okay. Thank you. And by the way, I love that you this does kind of remind me of like the little kid basketballs, or I don't think
Totally.
they're allowed to play dodgeball anymore because people could get hurt, but these were like the dodgeballs.
They were the dodgeballs. They totally
Ah,
were. And we'll talk about what makes us different from like a dodgeball in a second.
okay.
I want to use an apple. Okay, so here I
Okay.
have a basic apple. Our core is exactly the same as if we were to eat the fruit of this apple, we would have the apple core left, right?
Right.
The core has a top, the core has a bottom, and the core has the 360-degree cylinder. The diaphragm muscle, which is our main muscle of respiration, it sits in our rib cage like an open umbrella or a mushroom cap. That sits here. That's the roof of our core, is our diaphragm. The floor of our core is our pelvic floor. Okay, the pelvic floor is made up of 14 little muscles that create this beautiful hammock inside of our pelvis. Okay, and the pelvis is the bones of our hips. Okay, that come this basically this band here is our pelvis. Okay, so
Yes.
we have a roof and a ceiling, and then
Right.
the cylinder is made up of 4 different abdominal muscles. The deepest set of abdominals are the transverse abdominis. And what we don't understand is, from a fitness perspective, we believe we have to chase the six pack, right? If you have definition in your six pack, that means you are fit.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm here to tell you that that is such a myth, because the six pack muscle, called the rectus abdominis, is actually the least functional of all your abdominals. It doesn't give your waist shape. It doesn't support your spine. It's the muscle of the abdominals that's the first, it goes the skin and then the rectus abs. So if you have a low enough body fat percent, yeah, you're going to see those lines, right? But if you really want health and vitality and longevity, you're looking in the wrong spot. The deepest abs, which are the transverse abs that wrap this entire core, start at your back and they wrap to your front. And when you breathe diaphragmatically, ladies and gentlemen, you are accessing that deep, deep abdominal muscle. So here's something that a lot of people don't know. When you stop using your diaphragm, when you watch a newborn baby breathe, what do you see their belly doing? That belly rises and falls with every breath. We become young women, and all of a sudden we're sucking in, we're trying to look really narrow. We wear fashion that kind of cinches us, takes away space, at the expense of this muscle losing its ability to breathe. And because our body is so smart, the body just sends the breathing work into our neck. These muscles, the scalenes and the sternocleidomastoids, already have a job. They hold this bowling ball up on the spine, right? And so we've taken away this big muscle and we've replaced it with these little muscles. And about 21,000 times a day, we're asking these muscles to breathe. And we have neck tension, jaw tension, low-grade headaches at the brow line, at the hairline. I mean, and then you have to start using Jodi's fascia release oil, right? To start to get some relief, because that's what's happening, is you're just getting so locked up because you forgot the first act of life, which is breath. And we forget how to do it.
Yeah.
And so when you breathe diaphragmatically, And you can figure out, if you breathe with your neck, I call you like my little goldfishes, right? Because you're breathing with your gills essentially.
Yeah.
So way to really quickly find out, are you a goldfish? You want to put one hand here on this flat bone called your sternum, one hand on the belly button. And when
Mhm.
you take a big breath of air, which hand moves more?
I'm actually surprised my belly does. I thought I was a
Hey, you thought you were a goldfish.
I did. I was thinking I was guilty of being a goldfish.
Okay, so that's how you test that. And if your top hand is moving more, you have conditioned your neck to be your breathing muscles, and it's just about relearning. If your bottom hand moved more on that inhale,
Yeah.
then that's amazing. That's what you want. But here's what people don't realize is when the diaphragm goes to sleep, when we don't ask it to do its job, because of its location, it lives right above the pelvic floor and it has a direct line. Like these two talk all the time. So if this muscle stops functioning, this muscle is also going to stop functioning. So all we need to do is start to breathe properly and we start to improve our pelvic floor health. The one piece that I felt was missing as a Pilates instructor, and in my clinic, I would work with my pelvic floor physiotherapists on this too, was we know that any muscle that is lacking oxygen rich, nutrient rich blood is going to be dysfunctional. It's like a plant without sunlight and water, right?
Yeah, exactly.
My challenge was I know if I send my clients to my pelvic floor physical therapist at my clinic that they could get an internal exam, they could do, some internal work and get blood flow, they could release trigger points. But I wondered what I could create that I could use in my Pilates classes that people could throw in their suitcase or throw in their gym bag and do for minutes a day that could bring blood flow to that area. And then when they did go to see their pelvic floor physiotherapist or their massage therapist or their acupuncturist or their chiropractor, they would be like, what are you doing? Like, it seems like you have a whole different body. And that's really how the Cooch ball was born, was when you sit on it,
Yeah.
and the goal is 3 minutes, but your breath is your guide. So what do I mean by that? If you get on this ball and there is something called the ouch factor, I am going to be totally honest about that. The ouch factor is correlated to the health of your pelvic floor. So if you get on this ball and it's like, wow, I don't think I can stay for more than 10 seconds, it's telling you with confidence that it's like the desert. There's a lack of blood flow. We can't start to change the neural network, the paths in your brain without the environment for change. So when you sit on this every day, it's every day.
Yeah.
You wouldn't brush your teeth like once a month, right? What you start doing is you bring that beautiful, consistent supply of blood flow to the pelvic floor muscles so that you can melt through fascial restrictions, because fascia will do that. It's like that boa constrictor snake that doesn't let blood flow through to muscle fibers. And once you can melt through fascia, magic starts to happen.
Do you tell people to do it on like a hard floor, on carpet, on a chair? What do you recommend?
It's not a one size fits all. First of all, I want to show you my ball. Do you see how it's a little bit squishy?
Oh, yours is okay. Mine's too pumped up of air.
Yeah. So I want it to be a little bit squishy I don't want the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, freeze. I don't want the alarm bells going off, right? So I want the body to be able to melt onto this. So you know what? I don't have a pump by me, but
No, no,
Jodi,
okay. So the pump comes with the ball. The little top is in this side and you put it on top. So I pumped it full of air. How do I,
yeah. So you're gonna unscrew the needle from your pump first.
okay. Oh, I'm so glad a lot of my people have questions. So this is
Yeah.
really good.
So unscrew that from the pump and then
Yeah,
simply
totally messed up on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's a teaching moment, right? Yeah. So take that off, put the pump down, take the
Okay.
needle, and
Okay.
now slide the needle into the valve.
Oh, okay.
And then you're just going to squeeze
And
it.
you have to push a little bit, right? Oh,
Yeah, there. And
okay.
then I
Okay.
like to use, so when I squish mine, do you see how it kind of goes just to the top of the word cooch? That's how I know that's how I want it.
Okay. Oh my God, I'm so glad I made that mistake. Okay.
And you know what? Yeah, I'm so glad you made that mistake. That's perfect. Okay. And I
Mhm.
know we saw the other side of the ball too. So men, you also have pelvic floors. Ladies, your men have pelvic floors. So this is the gooch ball for men and the cooch ball for women. because in a man's body, okay, in a man's body, pelvic floor dysfunction shows itself as chronically tight hips, low back pain across the entire back, cold, tingly feet, constipation, erectile dysfunction. That is all, post prostate cancer, or, during prostate cancer treatment or post surgery. Guys have pelvic floors too. And it's really,
And are the symptoms similar for women?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, in women, I think one of the most common symptoms is incontinence, right? And there's two kinds of incontinence. There's urge and stress. So urge is, we're having a conversation. I don't have to go pee. And in 2 seconds from now, I'm running to the bathroom, undoing my pants. Like, it's that urge. I have to go right now. All right. And oftentimes we correlate urge incontinence with a pelvic floor that's lacking tone. We call it hypotonic. So lacking tone, weak, right? And then we have stress. So you might cough or sneeze or laugh really hard and find yourself wetting yourself a bit. That's called stress incontinence. We tend to relate that to a pelvic floor that's
Trampoline jumping incontinence?
yes. Yeah, that's what it is, right?
Uh-huh.
And here's the thing. I heard this stat lately that in women, 70% of women who have incontinence issues, their pelvic floor is too tight. It's like a rock wall. And
Oh,
yet we're told to do Kegels, right? We've all heard,
oh
do
yeah, after the
Kegels, right?
babies, of course.
Yes. Okay. But here's the problem, or here's the disconnect, is that a Kegel, or I'll ask you. So Jodi, when you learned about Kegels, how were you taught? Like, how do you do your Kegels when you do them?
It's basically like squeezing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right.
clenching kind of.
Yeah. The way I was taught after I had my first son was, it's like you're stopping the flow of urine, right? You got to
Yeah,
squeeze,
yeah.
start the flow of urine. Okay. But let's think about that. If you already have, like, a tight muscle is not a strong muscle, right? If my biceps are tight and I can't completely straighten my arm, that's not a strong muscle. That's just a tight muscle, right? So we now know that tight does not equal strong. And yet, if you already have a too tight pelvic floor, it doesn't know how to rest. It doesn't know how to relax. And now you're saying to it, stop the flow of urine, stop the flow
Yeah.
of urine. You're just actually exacerbating or making that tightness more, because you're adding more tension to it. And like you said before, we already hold the pelvis is the number one area in women for tension, anxiety, trauma. That's where we hang on to it, right? It could be
Yes.
childbirth, it could be slipping and falling, it could be sexual trauma, it could be the clothes we wear, right? Like the jeans we wear or the shoes we wear can create trauma in the pelvic floor. A lot of women don't realize that tight fascia in our feet, like plantar fasciitis, and a lot of tension in through our jaw. Those two areas are directly related to tension in the pelvic floor. So if you have a lot of jaw TMJ stuff going on, for sure, you've got pelvic floor.
I just learned that because my hips are super tight and I thought it was trauma. I used to carry Max on my hip chasing
Yeah.
after my older kid. And I'm like, oh, it's that trauma. And I wasn't kidding. I do not like pigeon pose. Like all the
Yep.
hip opening is hard for me. And I do grind my teeth. And someone just pointed out that's correlated. All right. So tell me, what should I be doing every day for 3 minutes?
Okay.
I twitch ball that's now properly inflated.
Yes. Now that you're ready to go. So the breathing is really key. All right. And
Yeah.
I want to just quickly, we'll walk through this. And I should say that, we do have a special offer that we're going to talk about for your community. Take the time, ladies. It just take the 5 or 10 minutes to just watch the get started videos, because it will optimize your experience and it'll boost your confidence. Because that's the biggest question. Am I doing it right? I don't know if I'm doing it right. Well, have you watched the videos? No, I haven't watched the videos, right? So think about this. When you inhale through your nose, your lungs are filling with air, and your lungs actually end just above your collarbone. Like, the lungs are quite large. All right. So when we inhale, the volume of the lungs fills up. That diaphragm muscle actually has to duck out of the way because the lungs are leaving it no room. All right. So when we inhale, the diaphragm melts, it contracts, it gets smaller. Remember earlier, I told you the diaphragm and the pelvic floor have a direct relationship. So as the diaphragm descends, the pelvic floor is also going to descend, which means as the diaphragm is contracting and getting smaller, the pelvic floor is going to be expanding and melting in the same direction. Okay. They go in the same direction, but they're doing two different things. One is contracting, one is expanding. All right. When we exhale out of our mouth, the lungs empty. There's now room for the diaphragm. So the diaphragm comes back up, it expands into that mushroom cap shape, and the pelvic floor follows, it contracts. It's almost like picking up a grape with your vagina. Okay. So there's this beautiful, like, melt and float, melt and float, melt and float. So when you're sitting on the ball, and like I was talking to Jodi before we went live, like I love, using the fascia release oil. If it's at night, if I'm doing my cooch ball at night, I love using the circadian rhythm oil while I'm doing my breathing. It becomes like my gift to myself. Those 3 minutes, I turn off all auditory stimulation. I close my eyes, the visual stimulation. I have the smell of my essential oils, and I'm sitting on my ball and I'm connecting with my body. I'm checking in with her. How are you today? Geez, this feels a little bit different than yesterday. You know what? I haven't been filling my water bottle as much today. I'm going to make sure right? Like I have this inner dialogue with myself and just check in. And that's what you're doing. If you find yourself holding your breath, or your breath is a bit erratic and your timer on your phone hasn't hit 3 minutes yet, just come off the ball and just continue your breathing until the 3 minutes is done. And then maybe tomorrow you can stay for an extra 20 seconds. It's not like the tortoise and the hare. It's not like winning the race. It's the process and the beautiful learning that comes along with a little bit of TLC every day.
I love that. I love that. So it's as simple as just sitting on it. It's not complicated. You're not doing any movement. Okay, that's fabulously easy.
Just start with that. I mean, like when my husband is on his, like he kind of does like I was showing you that the spinal movement, he kind of does
Yeah.
move a little bit on it. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you can't move on it. The biggest thing to remember is that if you are sitting on your yoga mat and you're like, the ouch factor is impacting my breath, then sit on your couch or go sit on your bed, because the mattress or the couch cushions will absorb a little bit of the ball and it'll be a little less intense, right? Take more air out. Stay for, like, I have some women that really, seriously, they started 15 seconds. That's all they've got, because they are like it's like Alcatraz, like it's a rock. They need to learn how to chill out and relax. And then what do you feel coming off the ball? When you get off the ball over time, you want to feel warmth and tingliness. That's how you know with confidence the blood flow is getting through those fascial restrictions into the musculature. You might feel like almost like you're sitting into your chair or into your floor. Things will feel quite wide open. Your hips will feel like they could take a breath of fresh air for the first time, maybe in years. And you'll just, because it feels good to feel good. You don't even know that you're restricted until you learn how to really release.
I love that. I love that. This has been so incredibly helpful. Do you want to share your special offer for the community?
Yes, I do. All right. So Jodi will have the link to this offer. So what it is the Cooch Ball bundle. So you get the Cooch Ball, you get your pump, you get a little get started postcard with it as well. I think Jodi, yeah, you have that too. And yeah, there it is. Okay. So that's what you get. And then you'll be a part of my community. You'll get an email that'll get you access to your student dashboard, where you'll find the Cooch Confident Training System, which is the 10 minutes of get started. And then I also have a fun half-hour workout with the Cooch Ball called Cooch Ball Tone. So we get down on the mat and I show you how to use it to get some glute work, to get some great ab work, to work on your posture and alignment. So that's in there. As a bonus of being part of Jodi's community, we're also going to gift you we call it the Cooch Fix Pack Mini. So this little thing is not just a one-trick pony. I'm going to show you how to use it for upper body wellness, breast health, the health of, neck.
Neck is huge.
Yeah, it is huge, right? There's one video where we do together lower body work and then one on gut health. And I should mention that the design patent of this ball and why it's not like a dodgeball you can buy at a department store is it's what you can't see. It's kind of like you can't see the pelvic floor. You can't see the magic, but in between, there's 3 layers of this ball: the bladder, no pun intended, and then the outer core. Between those 2 layers, we found some really cool nylon thread that is quite stretchy. And we wrap that nylon thread in a really unique pattern around the bladder of the ball. And then we put the blue outer covering on it. That's why, as an adult, we can sit on this ball and it doesn't just get squashed down.
All right.
The magic happens. All right. And we have another bonus as well, because I just think Jodi is fabulous. We're going to add into this offer 2 months of my brand new membership called Cooch School. So you don't have to do this on your own. Like we talk so much about DIY. This really, ladies, is like DIY. And I think in the process of, girl power and being independent women, we have simply forgot that we are meant to be in community. With the divine feminine is meant to be in community and support and dust each other off and not compete. And my success is independent from yours. And so Cooch School really is about supporting you to make this a part of your lifestyle. We've got live Q&As. I've got amazing guest speakers. There's something in there called the Pilates playground. So you're going to learn how to use your Cooch ball through some really amazing movement. And we're going to give you 2 months of that for free as well.
No, this is amazing. I'm so excited to get started on this, and I will keep you posted because my hips are painfully tight. I'm excited for this. Oh, I have a quick question. How soon might people start to notice results?
So I've had women like in as little as 7 days be like, I'm only waking up once at night, right? But what I say is be consistent for 30 days. Give yourself 30 days of consistency and there will be some change. Either you won't be running to the bathroom as much, you'll have more control.
This
Maybe
helps with nighttime waking to pee.
Well, for sure it does.
Oh,
Pain
I
during
a lot of customers for you. Okay.
Yeah. So I like to say, give it the 30 days because and consistency is key, right? You can buy it and then it can become a
Yeah, it can
dog.
go in your supplement graveyard.
Exactly.
And here's another question for the overachievers out there. If once a day is good, is twice a day better?
Twice a day is totally fine.
Okay.
I like to do mine morning and night. And if you like, sometimes I'll lay down and just put my mat on the floor and I'll lay on my belly and I'll do my psoas, right? Like I'll lay down.
Oh,
And so
yes.
so some of those things from the Cooch Fix Pack, lay and do a neck release, do your breast work, right? Like there's just, if you have more time, use it on other parts of your body.
Thank you. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to add?
The only thing or what I would like to leave your community with is that I feel like for those of you that are here, you're here for a reason, right? You've been searching for maybe answers, or you want to up level your health and wellness. And sometimes this can feel like a lot. And because we've been very muted about pelvic floor health, we think we're the only one going through it. And in fact, 1 in 2 women in the US is dealing with some sort of pelvic floor dysfunction. So first of all, you're not on your own, not at all. Anything that I mentioned today, if it's resonating with you, that information becomes education when it resonates and you take action. So maybe you're like, oh, maybe I should be moving my spine in a different way. Or I didn't realize that, breathing diaphragmatically gave me all these benefits. And then once you live that information and it becomes education, share it with someone, because that's when it becomes that innate women's wisdom. Because I'm on a mission, Jodi. The incontinence product industry is a $21 billion industry with a B. Do you know how many women on this planet believe that pads are the solution to their pelvic floor problem? And if I could get the help of any woman watching this today, and men, right? Men rise up too, because the erectile dysfunction industry is a $9 billion industry, and 90% of erectile dysfunction is actually rooted in pelvic floor tension. That would be huge if, the more people that we can spread this message to about the simplicity. I think sometimes we think health has to be complicated, and it doesn't.
Well, No, I actually was asked to write a blog on nighttime waking to pee. So I'm going to give this one a try, and this could be part of my solution. Thank you so much for your time and your brilliance. This was fabulous. I
Jodi,
really appreciate it, and your generous gift.
you're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope this podcast empowered you with some useful information and takeaways. If you liked this episode, please consider sharing a positive review or subscribing. I would also love to offer you my free parasympathetic toolkit as a gift just for listening. It will teach you how to activate the most important nerve in your body to turn on your ability to heal. This free toolkit includes a checklist, a video, and a detailed guide. If this podcast prompted any questions, you can always find answers at my blog at vibrantblueoils.com or my book, Essential Oils to Boost the Brain and Heal the Body. Until next time, wishing you vibrant health.